We've Been Here All Along, Wisconsin's Early Gay History, written by R. Richard Wagner, narrated by Vance Bastian. For Merle, Patrick, Doris, and Mark. Introduction. In Angels in America, Tony Kushner's stirring and searing drama about the AIDS crisis that opened on Broadway in 1993, the playwright calls for no more hidden deaths. More importantly, he has the character Prior Walter, the prophet, proclaim that gay folks will henceforth emerge from the shadows to be citizens of America. The idea of claiming citizenship was familiar to me from my first full-time job as director of the Wisconsin American Revolution Bicentennial Commission. At the Revolution's 100th anniversary celebration in Philadelphia in 1876, Susan B. Anthony had posed the question of whether women were indeed citizens. 100 years later, in the Wisconsin Commission newsletter, and in my speeches, I featured her statement as one that captured the unfolding dream of equality, enunciated, though not realized, in 1776. As a semi-closeted gay man in the early 1970s, I faced the same question that Anthony addressed. What kind of citizen was I? Today, most LGBT historians date the beginning of American gay liberation to the Stonewall Riots of June 1969. In New York City, patrons of an LGBT bar, the Stonewall Inn, located in Greenwich Village, reacted to a police raid by fighting back against the oppression they had passively accepted for years. As David Carter wrote in Stonewall, the riots that sparked the gay revolution, these riots are widely credited with being the motivating force in the transformation of the gay political movement. Drag queens, street youths, and lesbians were all part of the persecuted group that pushed back on the streets of the village for the several nights of the riots. This event led directly to the founding of the city's Gay Liberation Front, and, not long afterward, like-minded activist organizations around the country, including here in Wisconsin. For all those who have been part of the post-Stonewall gay generation that has claimed the American dream of full and equal citizenship, it is important to know how that happened, and in particular, how it happened here in Wisconsin. It is too often presumed that most gay history in the United States took place on the East and West coasts, but strong traditions and evidence prove that societal reform also happened elsewhere, on what in my days of campus activism was called the Third Coast, that is, the states bordering the Great Lakes. The very first gay organization in the United States was founded in the 1920s in Chicago. The state of Illinois, by adopting a model law reform code, was the first to decriminalize homosexual acts in 1961. Before the 1969 Stonewall Riots, Wisconsin had the first public call, in 1966, by a political body, the state's Young Democrats, for abolition of strictures against homosexuals so they could have freedom of action. Before Harvey Milk was elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 1977, Madison, Ann Arbor, and Minneapolis all had out gay elected officials. So there are stories to tell of the development of gay communities in places like the upper Midwest, including Wisconsin. Some of them are quite intriguing, like the rural-urban ferry network of southern Wisconsin in the 1930s. Milwaukee has a long-running LGBT community. The North Woods had a vibrant same-sex tradition in the mid-20th century. Madison's LGBT community has been activist-based, with links to the great university. Both Madison and Milwaukee began organizing for gay liberation within months of Stonewall, and Wisconsin was on the national circuit for early out speakers like Ginny Apuzzo and others who traveled to all three coasts. Stevens Point was a central place to which some of these speakers brought their messages of a new future for LGBT people. There is another reason to write a Wisconsin gay history. Most of the gay histories to date that are geographically based are city-focused. Yet a building block of polity in these constitutionally federal United States is the state entity. It is one of the bases for our constitutional and fundamental laws, as all the fights involving state marriage amendments demonstrated. States also enact criminal laws that all too often have touched homosexual lives in deleterious ways. In more modern modes, states have at times led in civil rights law and health policy. So showing how a state, through its legal structures, interacts with its gay community is another important story that needs to be told.